Hello, my name is Micah Camp, and I will be explaining uh, how to play Dungeons and Dragons, but essentially I'll be explaining where those numbers come from, first and foremost. A lot of times I see my players kind of get confused about like where these numbers come from, or like misadding stuff to their attacks and such like that. So I just want to explain like where these numbers come from and how like what you're adding and where they're coming from, and uh, hopefully to help you stop like overthinking or over adding or like not fully understanding where those numbers are coming from. Basically, you have three things: your score, modifier, and proficiency. uh, your score is this number here, this large number here. So there's a couple of ways to get your score. You could start with 8 and each of these stats going down, and then you can make you can add, I believe it's up to 7 each. I've never done this is called the point buy systems, and I've never done that before. The other way that there is to do it is that you roll 4d6, get rid of the lowest one, and then add all of those together, and then all of those added together equals your score. So, for example, for this one, I must have rolled a 15. I must have rolled a 15, and then gotten rid of the lowest one, or I guess the other way around. I got something higher than a 15 and got rid of the lowest number in that equation. So if I were to roll 46 right now, I could have one of my scores be 14, because I rolled a 2, 4, 6, and another 4. So one of them could be 14, getting rid of that 2. And so on and so forth. And I did that for each of those, and I got to this number. Now, your race also affects what abilities that you have better in. For example, my person is a halfling, a lightfoot halfling. So as a lightfoot, they get a +1 to dexterity and a +2 to charisma, making that an 18. So I must have gotten a 16 originally on the dice rolls, but also I get my racial bonus, which gives me a +2 to charisma. So I am a pretty strong charismatic person. So, seeing the score here, you'll also see this tiny number right under there, and that is your modifier. And once you know your score, you know your modifier, and your score affects your modifier. So, let's start from 0. The way D&D works is that 10 is the center, and every even number after 10 is a plus to your modifier, and every even number below 10 is a minus to your modifier. A minus by 1 and a plus by 1 in both ways. So you'll see that, for example, if I had a 12 in something, then it would be a +1 to that score. If I had a 14 in something, it would be a +2 to that score. So looking at my constitution, I have a +1 in constitution, because it is 12, 13, 12 and 13 are +1, 14 and 15 are +2, 16 and 17 are +3, and continuing onward up to 20. Normally characters max out at 20 on their score, unless stated otherwise. So you'll see intelligence, 0. Even though this is 11, it's a 0. This is a 15, so 12 is a 1, 14 is a +2. So, +2. And then my charisma, I rolled really well apparently, and also got a +2 to it, because halfling. So, +4. So now you understand where these modifiers come from. Your score dictates what your modifier is. Now, having these, let's say, like, understanding your strength is kind of like how well you can like lift things, or like possibly like swing something. Your dexterity is kind of like your agility, and your your movement, like kind of like understanding like how agile you are in the midst of combat or doing other things. Constitution, that's kind of your stamina or fortitude. Intelligence is your intelligence. Your wisdom is kind of, well, let me explain that a little better. Your intelligence is more of inward knowledge. Your wisdom is more of like outward knowledge and how you perceive the world around you. And your charisma it could be kind of considered in different ways. It's either how how you look on the outside, or it could be how persuasive your character is. You don't have to necessarily be handsome to have high charisma. You just need to be very cunning, or very how you talk and display yourself affects your charisma. So you'll see all these numbers over here, and all these like skills and such like that. Let's say that our characters need to sneak past a guard, for example. Let's say there's a guard, and this guard's tired of his job and doesn't want to really work or look around. Probably needed like maybe a 10 or a 13 in that area in order to get past him without him noticing us. So let's say in order to sneak past this guard, because this is D&D, you roll a 20-sided dice and take that number, and you're gonna add your modifier to it. So right now we're sneaking past the guard, so let's see. Let me roll a d20 and see what I get. Okay, I got a 16. So with that 16, where does it go? What this is called is making an ability check, or a skill check. This skill in particular is one that it looks like I'm not very good at. It's a stealth check. Since I'm trying to sneak past this guard, I will utilize our stealth. Luckily, this guard isn't looking around very well, and I need to roll above a 13 in order for him to not see me, and I succeeded with that 16. So where does this number come from? Where does this 0 come from? How come I have a 0 in this? Well, that comes from my dexterity. As you can see, dexterity. That's where that number comes from. You'll notice that these ones have stars next to them, and you're kind of like, what does that mean? Why do I have those stars? How come this is +4 here? And how come my medicine uses wisdom and my insight uses wisdom, but insight is a +4? That's strange. So let's look. So we have our wisdom, and then we also have this thing up here called proficiency bonus, which is basically things that you excel at doing, or something you've trained and worked and are now skilled in. We'll say that. We'll say it that way. That sounds good. Let's look at these skills again. So my character is really good at athletics. So if I'm looking at this number correctly, it's a +4. So it's my strength +2, plus another 2 because I'm proficient in it. My deception is +4 from my charisma down here. It says charisma. But my persuasion is +6 because of charisma plus proficiency bonus equals my persuasion. While this is just my charisma, this, because I'm good at persuading people, is a +6. And that also is, to kind of segue, also affects our saving throws. So certain times, like maybe an effect will, let's say that the enemy is going to use Charm Person on me, and I don't want to be charmed by this person, so I have to save against it. I don't want to be controlled by this person, so I'm going to try to save myself from it by forcing my will against his. So taking my wisdom saving, which is here, you'll see that it's a +4. My strength is a +2, using my strength modifier. My dexterity is a +0 because of that. My constitution is a +1 because of that. Intelligence +0. Wisdom +2, but another +2 because you see the little star next to it. That means that I am proficient in it, meaning that I'm adding a +4 to it. Same thing for charisma. +4, +2. And that's where those numbers come from. So that explains where these numbers come from. Where are these numbers coming from? It's your proficiency plus that number. Same thing for your attack bonus. So looking at these, some attacks use strength, some of them use dexterity. If you're casting a spell, it will use whatever you use to cast a spell, but I will go over that in just a moment. Using my strength, I get a +2, because I'm proficient in it, so +2, +2. So it is +4 here. And you'll notice that here's the damage over here. So kind of looking at these here, you could see that it's a d4 +2. Where does that number come from now? Why is there a +2 there? Is it adding my proficiency or is it adding my strength? Well, this weapon uses my strength, so I'm going to say I'm gonna add my strength to the roll. Same thing with the spear, plus 2 plus 2, and I am also adding my strength to it. Now, let's say this was like a magic weapon or something like that, and it had like a +1 to it. Let's say the spear was a +1 spear, and it gave me like 1 magical bonus to it. So another element is in there. So it would be a +5 to hit because it's adding 1 more because of the magic within it. And then this would be 1d6, 1 6-sided dice, plus 3. So that would be my strength, plus my proficiency, plus the magic in it. You're exerting yourself and putting your all into it. So you get to add your strength to it. That is actually a pretty good segue into your health. Your stamina, your constitution here, your constitution here gives you a boost to your health, your stats, how long you last in battle, in health-wise, before you're knocked unconscious. For whatever class you are, this character is a paladin, so for their health, they start off at level 1 with 10 plus their constitution. So with the constitution, I start off with 11. Because I leveled up, this is a level 2 paladin, so I roll a d10, I would have gotten a 5, and then it would be +1 because of the constitution. You add your constitution every single time you level up. It is your stamina. It is your inner stamina. So if your constitution goes up, then your health also gets that boost up. And you'll see that. I actually have a second character sheet that will further show off that large boost. I'm very quickly going to talk about armor class. Just because it may be something that comes up and you're wondering, like, how come you have an 18 armor class? Where does that number come from? I have chainmail armor for this character, and I also have a shield, which gives me a +2 to armor class. So it all rounds up to 18. Now, where do I get that number? If you're looking at the player's handbook or what have you, where it will say that your armor class is, let's say this character's wearing leather armor. It would be 11 plus your dexterity. However, my character has no dexterity, so I want to wear heavy armor, which just does the job of protecting for me. It's while adding your dexterity is your own agility added to the armor. I want the armor to just protect me. I don't want to put anything into it because I have nothing to put into it. So my armor class is 16. For the chainmail by itself, and then +2 for the shield. So it's me not adding any of my dexterity to it because that's a dangerous game to play. If this character were to wear heavy armor, leather armor rather, and go out into the world, they would have an 11. Let's say they still have their shield, so 13 armor class. So anything trying to hit me or whack me with a weapon would have to roll a 13 or higher in order to hit me. Oh, I meant to talk about this first, but we will jump into this now. No, actually, I'll actually leave this for the end. Your passive perception, I will leave that for the end because I will explain exactly how to figure that out when I explain how to figure this out, your spell casting. The way that you cast spells is that you use one of your mental things. So for a paladin, you use your charisma in order to do it. So I'm going to tell you the exact way to always know what your spell save DC is. This character uses charisma for their spellcasting ability. So, as you can see here, it says +6, which is the same exact thing as my persuasion. You're not ever going to have like a strange odd number unless like your character has a feat that lets them add something to it, add something more to it, but that's like on you to remember that sort of thing. Charisma, persuasion, proficiency bonus, equals my persuasion. So it's actually the same exact thing down here. Nothing really changes. It is my spell attack bonus is using my charisma ability. So it is 4 + 2, which is my charisma plus my proficiency bonus, which is my spell attack. So anytime I try to cast a spell or do anything, I add 6 to it. So now, where does this number come from? Where does the spell save DC come from? Well, it is 8 plus my spell attack bonus. Add whatever the spell ability is, plus your proficiency, because you're good. We'll assume that you're good at it. And then you add plus 8 to that. I don't know why 8 specifically, but it seems to be a good number. It seems to get the job done. So if at any time, like, let's say that you're launching a fireball at the enemy, and the GM or DM or what have you says, like, what's your spell save DC so I can roll for these creatures, then they have to roll above that in order to survive. And you tell them, okay, let me look. It's 8 plus my charisma plus my proficiency, so 14. And that's where you always get that number. That's gonna stay consistent unless you have like an item or something along those lines that changes it. So if I have to roll against that, the creature that you launch the fireball at rolls a 4, meaning that it explodes into chunks. So using that, you can always remember what exactly your thing is. Like, without even going over here, I don't even need to look, because I like, oh, okay, here's my charisma, here's my proficiency. So let me add those together. 6 plus 8, so 14. You just need to keep remembering that, and if you remember that, then you're all set. For your passive perception, similar rules apply, except for that base number. Instead of it being 8, like in your spells, it's 8 plus your proficiency plus your whatever your spellcasting is, in this case charisma. For this, it is actually whatever modifiers apply. So if we look at my character, they are not proficient in perception. So we're only adding +2 to it. You'll notice that this is 12 and not 10. So the base number, instead of it being 8, is actually 10. So any passive skill that you need to make, so like any passive nature skill, for example, using this right here, would be a +0. So it would be 10 base. For any passive religion check, would be a 12 base. Because of the +2 to religion right there. So whatever modifiers apply. Basically, D&D is a game where you roll and add these two numbers together. Two numbers together, consistently. Just two numbers. That's all you need. And sometimes one number. Just if it's 0, then it's one number. Or if you have nothing in it, then it's one number. Acrobatics check is 0. I don't add anything to that. You only have certain things that you're good at, some things that you're not. So just keep that in mind. Just know what exactly you're doing, and you should have fun with the game. I do want to show off really quickly the same character, very same character, but at level 10. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. You can see that the proficiency now has gone to 3. You can also see that this has gone to 5. So I think that, yeah, and Constitution has also grown. So my hit point maximum also changes because of my stamina growing. This character has also grown, and like their stamina has gone up, or their Constitution has now gone up. So so now to attacks, you'll notice that it's 3 plus 3 because my proficiency has grown. So 6 to when I am attacking. You'll notice the damage now has a +3 to it. You'll also notice, if I go all the way down here, well, before I even look, what is my spell save DC? It should be 5 plus 3 plus 8. So 8 plus 8. So 16 should be my DC. Yep. There we go. And we have our spell attack bonus of +8 as well. So if you keep that in mind and remember those things, then you should be set in playing Dungeons & Dragons, honestly. Yeah. Have fun.